to the Cut Through podcast. I'm Simon Bohr, and this is how to communicate with clarity in a noisy world. My new blog, Cut Through, aims to define a new model for modern communications leadership. In other words, to try to identify the essential skills needed to deliver great communications in a world of disruption and change. Now, before I get properly into it, I wanted to share some early thoughts on what it might cover. And I would really love to have your feedback on what would be most useful to you. I thought I'd start by trying to identify 7 areas that I think are essential for modern communicators. First, understanding what has changed and what hasn't. The digital and technological breakthroughs of the last 30 years have turned communication upside down. Communicators today navigate a fragmented landscape where attention is scarce, trust is low, and relevance is hard won. But how did we get here? To respond effectively, I think we need to understand the root causes better. What caused the big leaps forward in the way that we consume information, and what are the consequences for communicators today? Just as importantly, we need to remember what hasn't changed, the fundamentals of human behavior that are hardwired into our DNA. Because while our tools have changed rapidly in the last few years, our brains are still wired the same way that they were tens of thousands of years ago. We haven't had a firmware update. So we shouldn't abandon the communications techniques which are rooted in how human beings think, feel, and act. The future of communications belongs to those who can adapt to what has changed while recognizing what hasn't. And I want to explore both of those in Cut Through and draw out the lessons for communications. The second area I want to explore is how to design new strategies for this changed world. What are the winning strategies in this new media landscape? When trust in politicians, business, and the media is at historic lows, how do you cut through? I want to examine the strategies that organizations are pursuing successfully today. For example, the government's new media unit is seeking to earn trust through authentic, relevant, and hyper-local stories of delivery. On the other hand, some brands are increasingly borrowing trust, working with content creators who already enjoy high levels of trust with their audience. And in America, Donald Trump has created the playbook for how to position yourself as an outsider and ride a wave of distrust. The third area is not losing sight of those timeless fundamentals. There are some building blocks of great communication that are as relevant today as they have ever been. Strategy, storytelling, behavior change, and evaluation, for example. Strategy is the foundation of all effective communication. To drive real outcomes, communicators must be able to prioritize, allocate, and align resources behind clear and measurable objectives. And yet, I'm not sure we're always great at this. Too often, I see platitudinous truisms masquerading as genuine strategic choices. Phrases such as, "We will develop a clear and robust plan." By utilizing behavioral science, communicators can influence behavior and drive business outcomes, not just build awareness. And yet I think compared to marketeers, not many PR professionals spend time on social psychology or behavioral economics. And so I want to explore what we can learn there. Finally, good evaluation embedded from the start is critical for learning what works, improving over time, and demonstrating impact. And yet, I often see more self-justification dressed up as evaluation rather than appetite for genuine learning. The fourth essential skill for modern communicators is navigating a modern crisis. How do you communicate when the pressure is highest and the stakes matter most? Well, we should begin with an often overlooked truth. The single biggest determinant of success in a crisis is how well prepared the organization is beforehand. And that means exploring proactive brand and reputation management, as well as how to identify risks early and judge which issues could escalate. I'll also look at what great crisis plans look like in action, drawing on real world examples to explore the importance of grit and leadership, message discipline, and anticipating how a story will evolve. Finally, I'd like to look at the latest techniques for building resilience to mis and disinformation with audiences, such as inoculation theory or pre-bunking. The fifth skill that I want to look at is internal communications, engaging employees and shaping the voice of leaders. Employees feel overloaded and seem to expect employers to have a view not only on company strategy, but on global politics. Great internal communication creates clarity, builds trust, and drives performance. So, why do so many internal communicators feel that they're treated as a notice board rather than a driver of organizational success? How can internal communicators complete the journey from broadcasting messages to fostering engagement and driving performance? I'd also like to explore the evolving role of the CEO, not just as an internal leader, but as a visible public figure. Chief executives are expected to be storytellers and presenters as well as strategists, and this doesn't always come easy. Communicators need to help their principals to find their voice, acting as both a counsel and a co-creator. Six is leading and managing your own resilience. I think leading communications functions in this complex and changing environment requires 4 C's: clarity, capability, confidence, and continuous improvement. Clarity means having a clear plan and ensuring everyone understands their role in delivering it. Capability is about the skills, structures, and resources that you need now and in the future. Confidence means creating the conditions where people feel empowered, supported, and motivated to perform at their best. And continuous improvement is the mindset that asks not just what worked, but how can we do it better next week? Together, these 4 pillars create the conditions for a high-performing communications function, and I will explore each of them in future in this blog. I'll also be expanding on my recent LinkedIn series on how communications leaders can manage their own resilience and well-being under pressure, as well as how you can get a seat at the top table in the first place. Seventh and lastly, fostering innovation. I think we need a blueprint for a new AI-driven communications operating model. Traditional models have become obsolete almost overnight, and we as leaders must respond. That doesn't just involve adopting AI, but reimagining the entire operating model for communication. So I want to look at how to foster a culture of innovation, experimentation, and improvement, which I think has become a defining part of the communication leader's role. Drawing on my own experience developing the UK's first cross-government generative AI tool, I want to make the case for a human-led approach to AI adoption, one that starts with understanding users' needs, builds trust through transparency, and actively mitigates the hidden risks that emerge when decisions are outsourced to opaque systems. I think that the result can be a roadmap for embedding innovation as a safe and strategic collaborator. What else? What would you add? Which of those 7 skills feels most urgent to you in your world right now? What have I missed? Hit reply or comment below, and I will prioritize the most mentioned topics. So let's get into it properly next week. I'm going to start with strategy and more specifically, 5 bad approaches to developing your communication strategy. Until then, thank you for watching, reading, or listening. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already, and please share with other communicators who want to lead with clarity and cut through the noise. Thanks for listening.